I'm gonna give you 3 habits for a happy soul. Habit number 1, believe. Everybody say believe. Choose daily. What's that second word? What's the second word? Daily to believe in someone greater than yourself. Choose daily to believe in someone greater than yourself. At our church, one of the things that we have talked about over the years is at one point or another, we want you to have a one-day encounter with God. We want this to be your one day. Like before, maybe you didn't believe, but then you got this moment where you began to believe. You had this one-day event with God, and you were forever. One-day events don't change you. It's a daily choice to believe. It's gotta be more than a one-time event, or a year from now, it doesn't do any difference to you at all. I was talking with my wife earlier, and I said, how would you define happiness? And she said, knowing that somebody was taking care of me. That's believing. That I just believe somebody's for me and not against me, that somebody's in my corner, that I'm not going through life alone, that I don't have to do this all on my own and get my own wisdom and figure this all out on my own. And this is people who are believers tend to be happier than those that don't believe. And I'm not talking about one time they believed. I believe in God. But a daily choice every morning. I get up and go, God, I believe you're for me and not against me. I believe you got a plan for me today. I believe you forgive me and you love me and you died for me. And this is gonna be a good day because I'm walking with you. And this is a daily choice to believe. You tend to be a happier person. Let me give you some research on this. This is Gallup, the National Opinion Research Center, and the Pew Organization. They all say this: spiritually committed people are twice as likely to report being very happy than the least religious committed people. Twice as likely. They go on to say this: high religiousness predicts a low risk of depression, drug abuse, and fewer suicide attempts, and more reports of satisfaction with sex life and a sense of well-being. Look at the person next to you and say, I'm sexier because I believe. It's true. Some of you got a great date out of that. That's awesome. High levels of religious, and here's the next one. High levels of religious involvement are positively associated with indicators of psychological well-being, life satisfaction, happiness, positive affect, and higher morale. And with less depression, suicidal thoughts, and behavior of drug and alcohol use or abuse. You are much likelier to be a happier person if you would choose to believe daily and not just once in a while. Like seriously, I'm really super glad you're here today, Easter weekend. You should pat yourself on the back. I came to church this weekend, it's awesome. But what if you believed today and every day? From a research perspective, you would tend to be happier. Now there is one element to this that's kind of interesting. For those of you that believe, but believe you must force your beliefs on everybody else, you tend to be more unhappy. But if you believe, I have found the truth, and the truth has set me free, and I'm just happy, and if you want some truth, you can have it. If you don't want it, that's cool too. But I'm like, you just naturally walk in greater happiness because you're not trying to push it on anybody. You just have something that you believe for you. Is that good news? This is actually scriptural. It says in the Bible. This is Proverbs 16, verse 20 says this: happy is the man who puts his trust in the, second verse, happy are the people whose God is the, and then I'm gonna get to an Easter story. You guys know the Easter story. Jesus died, is resurrected, it's Easter weekend. Here's how John 20, 26 to 29 goes. It says, after 8 days, his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them, and he was the doubter. He's like, I don't believe. And even though the doors were locked, Jesus entered and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here, look at my hands, put your hand into my side, no more disbelief, believe. And Thomas responded to Jesus, my Lord and my what? Jesus replied, do you believe because you see me? Happy are those who don't see and yet what? Believe. I get the fact none of you have seen the risen Christ. He probably hasn't showed up and been like, what's up? Though that would be cool. But he promises, if you will choose to don't stop, right there. If you would choose to believe, not once in a while, but every day, God is for me. Jesus died for me. God's got a plan for me. You are much more likely to be happier than those who don't believe. So what would it look like to develop a habit of believing? Not a one-time, I believe in God, but a habit of believing. I'm gonna give you a suggestion. Here's my suggestion. Every morning for 3 weeks, hit your knees before your feet. Every morning, the second your eyes pop open in the morning, start your day on your knees before you run off and just go, God, man, thank you that you love me, that you have a plan for me. Jesus, thank you for dying for me. God, I believe you're gonna do something good in my life today. I'm gonna trust you today. I believe in you. And when this happens to you as you start your day, your likelihood of a happier day personally goes way, way up than for those of you that rush off and like, I have to figure out my day and I have to figure out my boss and I have to figure out my relationships and I'm all on my own. What if you just started your day for the next 3 weeks? Why 3 weeks? Because 21 days makes a habit. 21 days makes a habit. What if for just 21 days, every day, he's like, God, I believe in you. I'm gonna follow you. I'll worship you. Well, like maybe it would even help, like get a little Post-it note. I'm not even making this up. Get a Post-it note or get a marker and write on your bathroom mirror, believe. That way when you get up and you walk into the bathroom to go pee, because the first thing you know you're gonna do when you get up, or brush your teeth. So when you get up to go pee or brush your teeth, before you actually go there, you're like, oh yeah, I believe, and stop for a second. And once again, remind yourself out loud, Jesus, I believe in you. I'm trusting you. I believe you got a plan for me. You're gonna walk in more joy than those that try this all by themselves. Are you with me so far? Yeah. Habit number one is what? Believe. Habit number one is what? Believe. Like this, habit number two is worship. Habit number two, worship. Everybody say worship. Participate at least weekly in a worship service with your friends. Participate at least weekly in a worship service with your friends. This is really interesting. From a study perspective, people have found out that if you would go to worship weekly, not once a year or once every time you just kind of feel like it, you're much more likely to walk in joy than people that only go once in a while. Like somebody like, I went to church once, didn't really help me. It takes time, exactly like brushing your teeth. You've got to choose to do this over a specific long period of time for there to be positive effect. And now here's the other part of this. This is not true for those that have no friends. If you have no friends at the church, but you consistently go, you're not happier than those that don't believe. But if you would choose to go with a group of people that you know, that you love, that love you, you're surrounded with relationship, your ability to be happy actually goes up. It actually doesn't have anything to do with believing. It has to do with relationships that you're consistent in. Here's some studies. This is the study of 3,000 Americans on religion and happiness. This is by some professors from Harvard. Frequency of attendance to religious service mattered more than anything besides health in determining how satisfied people were with their lives. Frequency in attending religious services. The more often people went to worship services, the happier they reported being. Secondary, like this is how the stats even breaks out further. They wanted to say this, 33% of people who attend religious services every week and had 3 to 5 close friends in their congregation reported being extremely satisfied with their lives. The key is that 3 to 5 friends in the congregation, they know somebody. They're doing this with somebody else. So I'm looking at Big Lake and Zimmerman. Those are smaller campuses. You're much more likely to be satisfied with your life because you're seeing the same people in a smaller environment every single week. Here in Elk River, thousands of people come in the doors and out the doors. Only way this is gonna have a positive effect on your happiness and personal well-being is to consistently be here and develop some relationships or bring some relationships with you. Goes on to say this, 23% of people who attend religious services only several times a year say they're extremely satisfied with their lives. Dropped by 10%. And then 19% of people who never attend religious services say they're extremely satisfied with their lives. Notice that it drops off dramatically simply because they don't participate with their relationships in worship. Journal for Religion and Health studied 93,000 women in America. Here's what they found. Researchers found that women who attend religious services are at least once a week were 56% more likely to score above average on optimism and than non-religious women. 56%. They were also 22% less likely to be depressed. By the way, once again, this parallels what Scripture said. It's so interesting. In the last 100 years, we've watched church attendance go down and depression go where? And the Bible talks about this. Psalm 122 verse 1. I was glad when they said to me, what's the next word? Us go to the house of the Lord. Something about being in the house of God with people that you love affects you personally in a positive direction. Psalms 92 verse 13 says this, those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall what? flourish in the courts of our God. When you're like, you know what, I'm gonna be a part of a worship experience every week, not just once in a while, you're more likely to flourish with your life. So what would a habit of worship look like? First habit was believe, right? Second habit is what? What would a habit of worship look like? And this is just a suggestion. You don't have to do it. I don't care what you do. It's your life. I just want to be your hope dealer. Adjust your schedule to participate in a weekend worship service with someone else you know and love for 3 more weekends. Why? Habit takes 3 weekends, 3 weeks. Or attend alone, but choose to make a new friend in the next 3 weekends so that you're not alone in the future. The likelihood, this is so fascinating to me. It actually goes so far as to say people whose friends don't go to their church are much more likely to look at the church and be like, I don't think God's there. I don't think God really speaks there anymore. I don't think God really is a part of that place any longer. Why? Because psychologically their friends aren't there. So they tend to split. On the other hand, when you decide, you know what, I'm just gonna walk in joy with my family and friends to the house of God and participate together, you're much more likely to see God's presence, feel God's presence, and walk out of here more encouraged and happy with your life, even if your circumstances are bad sometimes. Is that good news? All it requires is a little switch. Like you know what? 3 weeks. What could it hurt? What if, I read this one study, it was awesome. This one atheist said, or this one Christian pastor said, for the next year, I'm gonna live as an atheist. I'm not gonna believe. And I'm gonna live as if I don't believe. What if for the next 3 weeks you live as if you believed? Just 3 weeks. What if you experimented? 3 weeks. I didn't say you have to believe yet. What if you just live as if you believe? Everybody say as if. As if you believed. 3 weekends. Okay, for 3 weekends, I'm gonna see if this positively affects me. If it doesn't at the end of 3 weeks, bail. But at least you were open and honest enough to try. Maybe this will affect me in a good and positive direction. Are you hearing me? Yes. How many weeks? 3 weeks. 3 weeks makes a habit. Habit number 3, forgive. Come on, say forgive. Oh man, this is the hardest one. Each day, all right, I'm gonna back up. End each day. Everybody say end. End each day asking and thanking God for his forgiveness, and then choose to forgive yourself and anyone who hurt you that day. Habit number 3, you wanna be a happier person every day. Forgive. First of all, believe that Jesus forgives you regardless of your past, no matter what you've done, no matter how you've acted, no matter how good or bad you are, that he just is proud of you anyway. Believe this, then forgive yourself and forgive everybody who hurt you that day. So like you started your day on your knees. What if you ended your day going, I'm gonna walk in forgiveness? This is what research and psychology says about forgiveness. It's really interesting. Psychologist and researcher Frederick Luskin says this: people who forgive are happier and healthier. This is true even when the original transgression was severe, like adultery, violence, or sexual abuse. Regardless of what has happened to you, everybody has crap happen. Everybody say crap happens. Doesn't it? It just does. People are gonna hurt you. People, like, they're gonna do something. I'm not trying to minimize it at all. But if at some point you decide to say, God, thank you for forgiving me, help me pass on forgiveness to somebody else, you're much likelier to be a happy person with whatever life you have left.